Good people, hello. Okay, feel like my camera is doing the same thing I was doing yesterday, where it just alternates the overall color between blue and pink. Let's see what happens if I change my background color to... That's just blue. That looks pretty awful, but at least my face looks normal. Okay, that kind of works. I need to get better lights also. These are kind of weak as fuck. Hello everyone. Okay. Everything seems to be working for once. Kind of surprising. Doesn't usually happen. Including me. I was working on my game. It's going well. I'm gonna sort of show some stuff soonish, let's say. Not right now though. So we're just gonna ignore that any of that was open. Because today we're doing compiler development. I hope anyway. Okay. So when did I last do any
Hola.
compiler stuff? Hola. When did I last do any compiler stuff? That would have been last week, perhaps. Wednesday? Not quite. I don't remember. A while ago. It's been a few days since I did any compiler stuff. But I did mention something kind of important that I need to get done for the compiler. And that would be value and reference types. So that's what I'm going to be doing today. Hopefully, anyway. Before that, Friday, I think, I worked on my 3D renderer. And it worked, everything was great. We were rasterizing triangles, but it was a little bit slow. So I made some improvements to it. Now it gets a solid 10 FPS. Yeah, that's good shit. It gets 10 FPS at the highest resolution. Completely in the CPU, so. And with the most complex model that I currently have. So I would say it's not too bad. It gets higher FPS once I, hide most of the triangles eventually. Reaching all the way up to 60. Seems limited to 60. But hey. The main improvement that I made to do this is every pixel was a draw call before because of the way that Raylib works. So now I'm just using an image like a frame buffer and rendering that, which makes it work a lot closer to how rendering works in my operating system, and also a lot more performant. Besides that, I added like a bit of dynamic resolution so that objects far away get rendered with less resolution. So it's not super easy to tell. I tried to make sure that it wasn't super easy to tell, but here, for example, you should be able to see that the thing is a little bit pixelated because it's far away. So we don't render every pixel individually. It loses precision, but considering how far away it is, that's not a particularly big problem. If I get further away, it should eventually become just 1 pixel. There it is. It can eventually become just 1 pixel, or no, actually, it's just a bunch of superimposed pixels. It looks like, and now it's 0 pixels. But yeah, we got dynamic resolution going on over here, just like Unreal Engine's Nanite. It's the same technology. It's the same shit. No, it's not. I actually have no idea how that works. I think they just like reduced the number. I have no idea. Only besides knowing that it's not super well optimized. Now I kind of want to know. Nobody asked you, actually. Is Unreal Engine's virtualized geometry system, which uses an internal mesh format and rendering technology to render pixel scale detail and high object counts. Okay, so the opposite of what I said, pretty much. So I have the opposite of Nanite. And Nanite works really poorly. So, by having made the opposite, clearly, mine probably works a lot worse. I mean, a lot better. A lot better. Million times better. I decompile. Okay, but I just wanted to show that since it has improved a little bit, and for the next steps of 3D rendering, which is gonna be what, texturing probably. Is there another step that I'm forgetting? Oh yeah, like backface culling, depth testing, and all of those different things. If you look at the model, I'm not gonna open it again, but if you look at the model, you could see 2 parts that are kind of overlapping. They end up like not even Z fighting, they just like get rendered both. It's a weird effect. I don't even know how to describe it because it's not supposed to happen. So we're gonna need to fix that. And then after that, we might look into some shading. The cable for my headphones is pretty long, but it's always tangled like this. So that just makes it very short. I have to fix this manually. I don't think there's much else I can do. Alright, that made it worse, actually, I feel like. But it's okay. Alright. Today, compiler development. And I have a reminder on my phone. I had it for yesterday. Yesterday I had to end the stream really early. I had a headache that was kind of killing me. We're gonna check out this bullshit. I mean, we're gonna check out Rust. We're gonna check out Rust. I'm very excited about this. Yeah. Rust. Must be so fun. Holy shit, I cannot wait to use the Rust, the best programming language ever. You know what? I might just rewrite my entire everything that I've done in C in Rust. Actually, you know what? I don't need a compiler. What am I making a new language for when the perfect language already exists? Am I not wasting time? Am I not um, reinventing the wheel when the perfect wheel has already been created? Feel like, yeah, I should just stick to Rust. You know what the best way to write safe code is? It's not Rust, it's to not write code at all. But Rust people are not ready for that conversation. Anyway, I guess I will be checking out Rust today because I have a plan to check out all of these languages here, except for ZBuffer. That's just reference for the 3D renderer, it has nothing to do with it. I have a plan to check out all of these languages here, see how they do the same code. I am sorry that you saw Rust. I'm so sorry. We're using it ironically, okay? Please don't leave. it's ironic. It's an ironic use of Rust, so don't worry about it. I just casually remembered that one Reddit mod that made that video that went viral a few days or weeks ago. January has been very long. I've lost track of time to the point that we're in February. I didn't even realize. That Reddit mod made a video explaining the different layers of irony and explaining why he's not really serious about what he's saying or whatever. It's just coping. I just casually remember that when I said I'm using Rust, ironically, I started thinking about which layer of irony is it. And honestly, I didn't pay attention to the video, so I don't know. Alright, I am trying to write the same code in different languages using as little documentation and as little reference as possible, though I know some languages more than others. Just to see how they tackle this problem. So far I've done Zig, Swift. I haven't done it in C, funnily enough. And I should probably do it in Cred as well. Right, if I'm developing a language, it should be able to do this thing. Even though I don't have switch statements in it yet. So I probably should have switch statements. There is one more. I did PHP, funnily enough. I just ran into PHP and I was like, yeah, let's give it a try. Alright, so I guess we're starting with Rust. Just get it out of the way. Do I have to escape? I'm not sure. Expampulus is definitely not right. I did PHP, Swift, and Zig. Yes. And the code looks like this in Zig. Essentially, we have a string with a bunch of operations. We iterate through it with an accumulator. And then those operations modify the accumulator in some way. Adding 1, multiplying by 2, multiplying by itself, minus 1, divide by 2. And then at the end, you just print. So already, I like this example that actually comes from Odin's website. And Odin I haven't checked out yet because, well, they already have the example written. So what am I going to write? I like this example because it really showcases a lot of useful things in the language. Whereas a lot of other languages in their landing page, maybe, they either don't show you any code at all, like the enlightened people at Rust, but also they... it's incredible work here, Rust. Maybe show you a hello world. In the case of Rust, they don't want you to know what the language looks like. I mean, there is the playground, but that's actually running. Maybe they get started. No, this is the same thing. Yeah, maybe they. Okay, here it is. Maybe they'll give you, oh, std out string char right say. Holy shit! What a horrible syntax! I am gonna hate this. Oh god. Oh god, I think my headache is gonna come back by the end of this. My head is just gonna explode. It's not even the headache anymore. It's just my head is gonna explode when I write this shit. What do you mean let std out, std out? You have to instance std out? Standard output is instanced? God. They've done it. They've taken the fun out of programming. And taken the fun out of function. Now it's just They've done it. God damn you. God damn you all to hell. Alright, you Rust maniacs. Let's see what these people are up to. That's the program that we're writing. Oh boy, am I dreading this. I actually don't want to do it. And yet, I don't want to back down. This is the only time I've considered letting an AI write code for me. Just so I don't have to write it. Nah, let's not be a pussy about it. By the way, what the fuck were they going on about here? std out string from message char count buff writer say unwrap println. Wait, println is a macro. Would it happen to be doing the exact same thing? No way, that's just shorthand for that, right? Do you have just the... yeah, I guess standard library. No search. Interesting. Okay. Oh, there is a search. Alright, I want println. It's a macro. I'm... speechless. Holy shit, they really have taken the fun out of function in this language. Oh, wow. It's like walking on eggshells, the programming language. You have to use locks for print. Well, you don't have to. But like, they suggest it. It panics. Print can panic. Imagine Cloudflare just fucking goes down again and half the internet goes down with it because they fucking panicked on a print. That's not how the last time that it went down it happened, but... what the fuck? It's literally walking on eggshells. Oh, Mr. Rust, can I please use the computer? Can I please program in this? Can I insert a new line? I can? Oh, but it actually got rid of the println because I had it selected. Whoops. My bad. Can I try again, please, sir? Thank you. Okay. Everything is part of the types, even lifetime is just generic parameter. In English, please? What does any of that mean? Alright. Here's the thing. When I jumped into every other language, PHP, I used to write PHP way back in the day. I was like 13. But yeah, I used to write PHP. So I just wrote it, and I think I had a couple issues with syntax, but not that many. Swift, I write Swift pretty often. I used to write it every day. Nowadays it's not every day, but I do it for work, and I have a few like small little. Whenever I need something small on my phone, I just make an app for it. So, pretty familiar with Swift. Besides it actually having been the main tool for my job for a long time. So I can't count it. Zig, I have to say I had to look up, for example, the syntax for a for each loop. I had to look up what it was telling me because there was a weird thing with division. But it was simple for me to write something basic in it. With Rust, I genuinely don't know where to start. All right. I'm assuming you have a slice, okay. Well, it's not quite what I'm going for. All right. The syntax of this language is so dog shit too. I don't even know what to write. Yeah, I'm just gonna write it in a better language and then translate it to Rust. What better language? Pseudocode. All right, so we want to have instructions, or program actually, I think it was called, and it is going to be plus plus. Do I remember it? This, and this. Plus plus. Yep. I got it right. And then we have an accumulator with 0, right? And then we just want to go through program. Switch the character. And we want to do, if it's a plus, right? If it's a minus, if it's a multiplier, we multiply by 2. And if it's a divider, we divide by 2. And if it's this symbol, we multiply by itself. And finally, we just wanna, like, I don't know, print. This is how you would write this in a reasonable fucking language. However, I think we have, from what little we've seen, Rust is not a reasonable fucking language. My hatred for this language is growing the more I learn about it. There was a message before that I waited until I was done typing to read. They lock I/O because from multi-threading perspective, I/O is single-threaded, and because their fearless concurrency is just type system, they have no other option than to add a lock guard on I/O. Rust was like, what's the most complex solution we can come up to a fairly well thought out problem? It's not a solved problem by any means, but we have thought about it a lot. And they're like, yeah, good solutions. Have you considered this really convoluted and stupid one? Also, have you considered that you might blow up the computer with your code? You gotta be careful. You gotta be careful. Careful. Alright. So obviously this is not Rust syntax because it couldn't be this fucking simple. I don't even know how to declare a variable. So Rust declare literal. Also, yes, we have this really convoluted and stupid solution. But you know what else we have? The worst syntax you've seen in your life. That's right. It's Rust. And guess what? You can't have memory errors. Well, you can, but we say you can't. You fell in love with Rust? Well, that's one person. Okay. So, what I want to write for my string literal is let name. I'm assuming there's a difference between let and...
Hey dude, how are ya my fella?
I'm not gonna lie to you. Sad, angry, disappointed, baffled, bewildered by Rust. I'm hoping this nightmare ends soon. So let's get it over with. Do I need this whole like static end static bullshit? What the fuck is that? Alright, is that enough? I keep trying to save. If you couldn't tell. Can you imagine if it all just compiled and worked? I'm here complaining about the dog shit syntax and then I just wrote all of it without even having knowing the language. Obviously not. Obviously not. Why Rust design is bad? You also need deep knowledge in the language to understand, so literally zero Rust programmers know and think about it. Now I'll check it out in a bit. Let me finish writing this. Alright. I am seeing the syntax for the loop is already better than the one that Zig has, because my brother in Christ, what the fuck is this? What do you mean? Apparently, this is a capture. Wait, I hadn't thought about it. If this is a capture, does this mean that this whole thing is a lambda? Is that anyone who know about Zig can tell me this? Because I've been told this is a capture, but I hadn't thought about it until now. Does it mean this is a lambda? It's not? Okay. Is it a capture though? Like, what was that? Have I been lied to? Have I been misled? Okay, wait, hold on. It probably won't. No, syntax is good. I see that they're putting the characters in a vector. Do I need to do that? Hopefully not. Alright, hold on. Either way, this shouldn't be a var, it should be a letmut. Like that guy. Poor thing, he's asleep and catching strays. I can only assume I have to be explicit about the type. Okay, it seems to no longer be complaining about this line, so I think we're good. As I make the syntax of what I wrote actively worse, it's becoming more friendly to Rust. The Rust compiler's like, yeah, okay, I see where you're going with this. Rust has some form of type inference. Fair. I just like, why? That could lead to bugs. It often leads to bugs. You would think they would be explicit about that. Is, no. Zig has it too. I'm not surprised that either of them have it. Though it is super useful, like const bytes equals literal string. It's pretty obvious what it is. It's idiomatic not to use it. That makes sense. Oh, each collect allocates memory on heap. Oh yeah, I figured. I've heard at Rust, because it is memory safe, it's just like, well, you know what? Let's abuse the fuck out of the heap now that we know that we're not gonna fuck it up. Morglot's repo. This is the... Oh yeah. Yeah, we saw this. We saw this one last time. It's beautiful. That's why I said Rust makes you forces you to have memory safety, but even then it's kind of optional because like these are really simple ways of breaking it. When they first showed me this, I was like, yeah, you probably just went out of your way to do something obscure and kind of ambiguous in order to break it. No. There's just like, hey, okay, so create an x, assign y, assign x, x's value, print y. Multiple mutable references. Like, it's that easy to break it. It just breaks. It just breaks. Okay, expected semicolon found switch. Oh, because I didn't remove the variable name from here, so that's good. On line 7, it expected one off. Probably gonna have to look up. Switch. Oh, okay. This is what came up when I looked up switch, and then I saw this, and I was like, what in the name of... You need memleak, which is safe from Rust perspective, but I did not use it in my repo. Well, it doesn't need like you need it then. Doesn't look like you need it then. Also, I looked up switch, a switch statement. Alright, so looking up switch statement on rustlang.org doesn't actually give you a result for a switch statement. Everything about this language just just pisses me off. Match. They just had to be quirky about it. You know how it is. I have a multi-cursor on this editor, by any chance? Nope. Don't think I do. Well, maybe? Oh, yes, I do. With control, not with alt. Alright, because essentially what I need is this. Right? That looks about right. And I'd be very surprised if I don't have to do something like this. Match arm body without braces. Okay. Oh, the whole statement needs to be surrounded by a body. I mean by braces. Almost nice. Almost nice. This one too. Even though it does nothing. Didn't they have an example of doing nothing? No, they don't. Expected pattern found semicolon. Oh, semicolon goes inside, not outside. So I do need that god-awful syntax from before. No, I don't. So I still have to... Is it this? Chars. Rust, like other languages, can never prevent the program from controlling its own heap. So even if you safeguard the memory, you can always expect the program to somehow make a bug. Language can only ever warn against them or make the design pattern so convoluted that it prevents these bugs. This does not look like a convoluted way of breaking it. I don't want to go over it again, but yeah. It really doesn't look complicated. That's it? It worked. Just like that. Okay. The syntax ended up being a little less dog shit than I expected. It's cat shit. Yeah, cat shit. The result is wrong. However, this is the first time that I've had a bug in writing this program. And again, I wrote it by memory. But what I expect to happen is we start at 0, 1, 2, 4, 16, 15, 7. Or 7.5, depending on how they use types. The result here is 1. Well. I'm assuming I'm doing this right, by the way. It worked, so it looks like I'm doing it right. Ugh, no, why did I think it was this simple? It's println with a lock. You break on second char. Oh, because the space is also counted. And break doesn't work like I expected it to. Okay, understood. Okay, okay. So break doesn't break out of the match, it breaks out of the 4. Okay, that makes sense, that makes sense. Thank you, thank you. Okay, there we go, it works. Okay, we've written Rust, alright? Yeah, okay, let's go. Yay. We're done. Yay, we're done. I don't have to write Rust again. God-awful language. Let me tell you. Why would you do this? The language. It's, Rust feels like the equivalent. I don't know if this happened to me on stream when I was streaming on Mac, but sometimes you write a script, like a shell script on Mac, and then you try to execute it on that same Mac, and it's like, hey, buddy, this program was trying to harm your computer, so I took care of it. Yeah. Want to throw it in the trash? And you don't actually have the option of saying, I made that, please let me run it. You have to go into the settings, you have to go into privacy, you have to scroll down, and you have to see another message that tells you that. Say open anyway, you have to enter your password or Touch ID, and then your program opens. Rust is the equivalent of that. God-awful language. Truly. A mistake through and through. Burn it all down and start over. And we didn't even get into the memory stuff here. We're not allocating memory. At least I fucking hope we're not. We're probably allocating memory like 50 times throughout this code. But we shouldn't be allocating any memory, as far as I can tell. So yeah, testing languages is going amazing, you can tell. Yeah. It's fucking incredible. I am loving it. Call me McDonald's the way I'm loving it. Alright. You're done. You're so fucking done. Get out of here. Get out of here. I'm gonna block it on the DNS level. I'm gonna put it on Pi-hole. Rostlang.org. Blocked. Okay. It's over. I wanna cry. I'm so happy. I'm being so dramatic about this. Do you need therapy? Yeah. I could use some therapy. Alright. So accurately named it crusty. Because what a crusty ass language. God damn. See you decompile. Now let's get to a better one. My hack together excuse for a language called cred. It might be hacked together. It might hardly even work. But guess what? It isn't stupid. It isn't stupid. That's all I can say about that. First off, this thing. I don't. Dust and dusty. Crusty, musty, and dusty. Yesterday I was writing some game code at 2 a.m. when you write your best code. It might have been 1 a.m. And I needed some way of checking if two different objects, so game objects, so ECS entities and components, are compatible in some way. Right, so I need to compare the two entities with their two components and return a boolean. And I called that type of thing an evaluator, so I can just register functions that do this for me in the game engine. And I was thinking that it would be nice to do that with a template kind of.
Fast rust is dust with crust must cast last.
Some kind of template class. So these evaluators would be templates, and then you implement one of these templates by filling out the two component types that it checks. Right, so what I was this was for my hacking game, right? So what I was writing is that the user of a computer could use that computer, right? So you would implement it like computer lock eval. No, it was about locking between a computer user and a computer module. Not sure I'm gonna keep that name. That's from when I prototyped this whole system. Now I'm actually building it. And then you implement this. Well, automatically. Hold on, this function is not fully filled out. Right, so it could work as a little bit of a shorthand type of thing with the use of generics. I'm not gonna implement this, but it is a nice idea that I had. What I'm still not sure about is I technically do have generics now because of my arrays, but I call them subtypes and they're limited to one per class. Right now, they don't have to be. In this case, there's two. There could be more. But that's the least of my problems. The syntax of it, I'm still not sure about. I did use the semicolon one, so in my code right now, it's chunk array semicolon integer, and then the name of the variable. So it looks like that. It's not bad, but IDK, if I want to use that syntax. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I also don't like this type of syntax. It looks uglier to me. This looks more elegant. The problem is it breaks down when you have multiple ones. It looks like this, which is kind of weird. Because now you cannot really tell that this is a generic type of this. And that this is also a generic type of this. Now, they all look like three different equal things when they're not. But again, I'm keeping this syntax until it doesn't work for me anymore. Maybe, hold on, maybe I could do something like commas, but oh, that's so much worse, holy shit. I hate every single one of these. Yeah, chunk array int with the brackets would make sense, but it's not amazing either. I like the semicolon more when it's one generic, but when it's multiple ones, then it becomes a problem. Unless you force it to be two like this. But then again, that's just an extra symbol here. I don't know. Well, either way, right now I don't have support for multiple generics. So for one, I like this syntax. And I'm not planning on supporting this anytime soon, because also this implementation ended up not being the best way of designing that system, so I didn't need to do any of this. But yeah, it got me thinking about this, about creating templates like that, which essentially using generics with templates like these, but then they resolve to fully implemented types, kind of. Essentially, you implement the code once, but then it actually gets implemented multiple times. I do have a more pressing issue. And it's the fact that, for example, in this code, chunk array of type integer is actually not a link, a pointer. Right? So it's not well, there's two different ways of having variables and values. Usually they're called reference type and value type. So value type is actually the value itself, whereas reference type is usually a pointer to the value. Right? So Jester is a value type and I am pointing to him, so I am a dog reference type, whereas he is a dog value type. That's actually a pretty good way of explaining pointers, I feel like. He's a dog, and I am a dog pointer. But my language doesn't know either of these things right now. And so I kinda needed to do that. Now, Actually, how does Rust handle this? Let's go back to that godforsaken language for a second. Borrowing is just taking a reference? They took something so simple and they made it so complex. God damn that whole language. I mean, the ownership of the object in question. So, for example, this function would take ownership, whereas this one would just borrow the string. Okay. So in the end, it seems like Rust is doing the same thing that C does, but with extra bullshit on top of it. Pretty sure that applies to like 90% of Rust code. What can I say? But there are some languages, like Swift, for example, does this. C# does this. Probably Java. It's been a long time since I've written any relevant Java, or since Java has been relevant in general. In Swift, you just declare something as a struct, and now it is a value type, or you declare it as a class, and now it is a reference type. So that is to say, well, let me give them different names. H is a value type, and W is a reference type. It's simple. You kind of know exactly what's a reference and what's a struct and what's a value type. The problem is no. Because if I don't know what these two look like, I have no idea which one is a reference and which one is a value type. Which is hiding that kind of complexity from me. And also making things just not amazing when it comes to flexibility. For example, in most of my simple applications, I have some code that looks like this. They have a draw context, which is used to draw to the screen. And the draw context is usually allocated inside of the function that it exists in, or sometimes just in the program like this. And then it is used by functions such as request draw or commit draw, or even the actual functions that draw it, as a pointer. Right? So here it's passed as a pointer, but here it is a value, and here it is accessed as a value. I like having that kind of flexibility. I use it quite a lot, so I want my language to have that kind of flexibility. And I'm thinking more and more, I might just have to make it explicit, like C makes it explicit. You know, if I declare draw context, let's imagine that it doesn't have an initializer. Right, it just looks like this, and I cannot see the code underneath that initializes it. So I just know that there's an object called draw context. I already know right away that this object is a value type because it doesn't have this symbol. With this symbol, it becomes a reference. A reference type. The symbol is a pointer symbol. But I can go from one to the other pretty easily. Right, so the code again initially looks like this. But then, like I said, request draw context actually uses a pointer. It uses a pointer to a draw context. So what do I do when I have a value? I pass its address. That simple. This just means pass in the pointer to context. So the address to pointer. Wherever this is stored in memory, pass that value to this. It's that simple. And I like the way that C does it. I don't like the way that, again, Swift does it. The difference between a struct and a class is just reference versus value type. They have some extra differences, which I honestly feel like it's probably just bullshit arbitrary restrictions that Apple put in there for whatever reason. Like, a struct doesn't need an explicit initializer and a class does. But that might be... Yeah, no, never mind. I have no idea why. I have no idea why they do that. But yeah, if this has a property, which is a string, I can automatically do this here, but I cannot do this. I have to have an initializer for it, which really just amounts to this. Most of the times you can even like right click and have it auto create an initializer for you. Yeah, Swift uses self. So it feels kind of dumb that it cannot automatically create an initializer for me, whereas a struct can. This feels like an arbitrary restriction of the language, but it's not even what I'm talking about. I just remembered it. What I am talking about is the fact that Swift has some very clear rules for what is a reference and what is a value type, but you need to know the type. That is something I don't want. And also, I would much rather be able to do, you know, var h and var star w, or even that. So I think I'm gonna keep C syntax for this. Unexpected, I know. But yeah, I think I might just need to. What about C sharp? I honestly don't remember. I remember they have things like object and whatnot. But I don't remember value types in C sharp. I think it's just struct and enum. Int, bool, float are specific types. Interface and delegates are kinds of type. Like struct and enum of kinds of value types. Okay, yeah. So C sharp does kind of the same thing. Enums and structs are value types. Classes are object types, reference types, and they have inheritance by default. And then you have int, bool, and all those things that are not they're primitives, so they kind of don't follow these rules. But essentially, they're just value types, you know, in the way that they work. For that matter, in Swift, int value type. Value and reference types in Swift. So here, document is a value type, which means that when you do this, it's copying the object. Whereas the same exact code changes its behavior if this becomes a class, which is cool until you don't have access to this type. Then it's not cool anymore. Because like this code and god damn it, scroll to where I need you. And this code are pretty sure they're exactly the same. Yeah, they're exactly the same code. So if you don't know the type, you don't know if it's a reference or value type. And that I really don't like. C Sharp, kind of the same way. Java, I believe kind of the same way, but honestly, let's leave that language in the hole that it dug for itself, I guess. It's an okay language, it's boring. It's got Minecraft, a little bit of Hightail, and then enterprise software. At least C Sharp has Unity. Besides that, it also has enterprise software and little else. But at least C Sharp has Unity, and it translates to C++ in the behind the scenes. Oh, the documentation for C Sharp is kind of shit, and so is the documentation for Swift. That page that we saw there was actually decent, but usually it just looks like. Wait, have they changed their documentation? Maybe they changed it. Or maybe it's because I'm on Swift.org. I went a little. Language reference is what I want, I guess. Looks like this. It's shit. It's they've changed the colors of that page, but they haven't changed the layout in like 10 years at least, as far as I know. When I first found it. Probably longer than that. Okay, so most likely I'm gonna want my reference and value types to be explicit in my language. And I think the best syntax for that is going to be asterisk and ampersand. I guess. Alright. Add the break coming up, so I'll be back in 3 minutes. And we'll start coding some of that stuff. We have returned. Okay. So I made the executive decision that my languages reference versus value type is going to be entirely decided by your explicit choice. Same as C, pretty much. I think I'm gonna use just C syntax for this. Honestly, I did say the language was gonna be just like C, but with extra stuff on top of it. It's kind of becoming its own thing to the point that it couldn't even compile C if it tried. Maybe with this it will be able to, but it's a little bit hard. Maybe one thing I do want to change is that in C for a reference type you have to use this. I don't want to do that. I'm okay with leaving that part up to the compiler. But not the typing. Essentially, you're using struct and class. Like, I don't want to do that. But yeah, whether you use an arrow or a dot shouldn't really matter to the programmer, so I'm okay with that. Okay. So, as a matter of fact, test array is actually a pointer type. Test array is a pointer type because chunk array create returns a pointer. In using it, you then use a pointer. However, if I try to compile, it does abstract away some operations. If I don't use an arrow type, what would it abstract away? By the way, I added something to my compiler. Let's see if it works. Yes. Okay, I added that it tells you what symbol it expects instead of and what it found. So syntactic analysis is a lot better because of that. I had a hunch that even though the parser doesn't know the language that it is parsing, it should still be able to do this, and so far it hasn't failed a single time. Tells me that on line 2, character 20, so okay, this part is always a little bit wrong, to be honest. Though I'm pretty sure I know how to fix it, so maybe I should. Expected semicolon, found asterisk. There we have it. Let me take a little detour for a second and consider that. So the way that I did that is I keep track of where you fail. No, okay. Okay, no, we're good. Because this value is always like at least 1 off, so I'm not entirely sure why. Wait. Is it just because... Yep, okay. It's literally just an off by 1 error because we start counting at 0. Whereas in reality, you start counting at 1. Okay. Well, glad I took the detour because even though I thought I wasn't going to be able to fix it, it ended up being a pretty simple fix. It's literally an off by 1 because we start counting at 0. So, line number, column, and file. Where is that parsed? Oh. I do realize I set column back to 1, not to 0. So... Yeesh. Maybe that was only true of the first line? Yep. Okay, that's not the issue, actually. It still says column 20 when it should be column 21. Okay. I thought I found the issue. I found a different issue instead. Oh well. I'll look into it at some other point. It's not important right now. I blanked there for a second. What I need to do is I need to add these value types, an asterisk for these value types. First off, in their declaration, pretty sure it's counted as an operator. Asterisk. And it's an optional one. Expected L brace found semicolon. That's kind of unexpected. On line 29, it finds an error where it expects a left brace. Because it's parsing it as if it was a function declaration, isn't it? No. A conditional? No. Else? No. It's considering it to be a lambda. Probably. No, I'm not sure what's happening actually. Okay, taking a little detour into the parser again. Because here, you can also keep track of which rule caused the issue. No, not here. Latest fail. Parser current rule. Okay, keep track of that. And then should be able to do a call to rule names index parse res fail info rule function declaration. Okay. So it thinks that a function declaration is it thinks that this is a function declaration, which is very wrong. Why does an asterisk make you think it's a function declaration though? Well, that would be because I added the symbol to the wrong place. I should have added it to this. though it still fails. In declaration, it complains. Oh, because there's 2 types of it. Well, there's actually 4 types of it. And I have to add the operand to all of them. Okay. So now it works. And I need to indicate that it is a reference type. So to do that, I can go into the semantic enumerator here and add a new type called ref. So now when you're declaring a variable, God, these errors are so difficult to read. What the fuck is happening here? Oh no, it's not the errors that are difficult to read. It's that this is broken somehow. My parser broke. That would be because in the rule parser, if the token is an operator, no. All right, here it is. It checks if it has a tag by checking if the next symbol is @ symbol. But do I have to pull some changes, perhaps? No. Do I have to push some changes off my laptop, maybe? I feel like this shouldn't be here anymore. So that's kind of weird. But yeah, my parser is not equipped to handle this kind of situation. I don't have any changes or any unpushed changes. And yet, no, okay. The problem is that this check should go before this check. Okay, this needs to go, first off. We can expect it to have a tag. But second, you are a problem. You need to go before this. Unless it doesn't. Oh no. I'm using a property called tag to store this value, but I should be using it to store this value. So, damn, it's not working well. I can remove the literal isn't expected to have a tag. I already did. But then, yeah, that will work now. But it will create rules that look like, yeah, broken. Hold on, that's not right. It matches the operator correctly, right? So it gets this right, and it should consume this token already, even though it should lose it, which is not right, but then it's producing it here and here, which is also not right. Because if you parsed up to this, how did you get this after? That doesn't make any sense. This file is saved, right? I'm so confused by this. Oh wait, it's happening in multiple places. I forgot to change it. Okay, that's probably what's happening. That worked? Oh yeah, it worked, but literal token does not understand that it's supposed to also store ref as its type. Um, so instead of emitting this lit talk, why don't I just make it value goes there, and then also here. No, that's fine, that's fine. Anywhere that I'm using this tag type, I need to make sure that it actually is a tag. Looks like I am. That was the only place in which I was using the wrong value, kind of. Sec rule tag equals tag. So now it produces it properly as operator ref. That's good for me. What if I leave an empty type? No, if it doesn't have a type, what is type anyway? It's char pointer. If I don't specify one of these types, then I just, instead of using one of these macros, I just use this instead, which frankly I should be doing anyway. Token, the name goes there, the action goes in the type, and the element yeah, no, this is dumb. I'm better off using the macros and just creating a new one for this. Symtoc is better. Symbol token. And what is a symbol token? It uses a name, tag, value, passes false here, rule, no, took underscore this name, then value, then sem action tag, no, it's sem action declare, sem lm ref, sem lm tag, like that. Okay. So I need to fill that in. God, this feels convoluted. I don't like the way that this thing works. Luckily, I'm most likely going to replace this parser with the one that it's helping to build. And the order for these is name, tag, and value. So rule, name, tag, and a token to slice value. Segfault. Hell yeah. Oh, wait. Kind of put the argument in the wrong place there. I put it where it wasn't needed and didn't put it where it was needed. Obviously, that's gonna segfault. Did I break all of them now? Use the font to clear identifier value. Well, that would be because I called it val, not value. So already not off to an amazing start there. But then Simtuck. Yeah, I did break all of these other ones. Okay, that should fix all of them. And make me hate my parser even, my rule generator even more. Did seem to work. And it should have, yeah, detected this, but it didn't do anything with it. What do we do with it is essentially when we are in the is dreaming, by the way. All right, I'm pretty sure there's a syntax debate going on over on Twitch, by the way. Debate or war, I don't know which one. Here, if the symbol node sem value equals to sem lm rep sem lm ref, then the symbol is a reference type. Simple as that. Simple as that. Even. We debug the table, I believe it tells me that. It does not tell me that. Where's the debug? Here. Okay. All of them are not reference types until we get to the chunk array, which is a reference type. Amazing. Now, there is another one, which is a reference type, in C anyway. That is the literal. But I don't think I have any literals. So let's put one in. It is not. It is not a literal type. It is not a reference type. So shouldn't it have analyzed it and realized that it is? Well, I get a feeling that no, actually. Okay. Now, the funny thing is chunk array was already considered a reference type because of this code here. So I do wonder if I don't add this at all, by default, it's still considered a reference type. Interesting. Okay, well, we can get rid of this now. And frankly, I should get rid of the literal thing too, because like it isn't a reference type. It's a char pointer, but usually you don't use it like a reference type. And that's only in C that it's a reference type, by the way. Although, yeah. Either way, it detects as a reference type. I think AI will generate more problems than it fixes, if I'm completely honest, but a lot of people are in denial about that. Also, working on a programming language. Kinda similar to C. I guess we'll see what it develops into. Okay, let me look at my code that's being generated. We have a chunk array pointer. What in the name of? That reference type is a little bit weird. It's a char pointer underscore t pointer. That's a code generator problem. That's not really. Yeah, I hard coded that underscore t thing, which is not right. Essentially just adds underscore t to types, but it shouldn't add it to all types. And see, this is what makes me wonder. It emits a char pointer already. And if it's a reference type, it adds underscore t and it adds an asterisk to it. So that is correct for other types, but that isn't correct for literals. But then it makes me wonder, can I just get rid of these? No, wait. Of this. It's not a reference type anymore, and if we go to the output, it's Charlie. It was supposed to be literally, but now it's Charlie. I didn't realize. Okay, nice. All right, I was able to do that. That worked. For declaring types as reference types. Wait, the argument about Rust is about type inference? Oh boy. Okay, that's all fine and good. That's amazing even. But this here, for example, that there is what gets produced All right, so actually, I'm going to focus on this specific code. I want to review pretty much what generates this part of the code, and see if I can improve it a little bit with the addition of pointers. But it does lead me to the next thing that I wanted to look into, and it's the fact that chunk array is in my language just an array. The even then, the syntax for it, I'm not entirely sure. Because what I want to have is simply an array. That array then is an interface pretty much. Maybe this is another way that I can do templates, right? Even though this is actually implemented in C and I need to keep it in C for the time being. But this is a type that is implemented in C. It's chunk array. It's actually chunk array underscore T, which is why I add that underscore T to reference types. But ideally, you just implement an array. You access it like an array. You use it like an array, and you don't care about the internal memory layout. You have control over it, but you don't care. As in, I'm writing my code, right? I have this array, I'm putting stuff in it. It's a chunk array. Which just allocates sequentially until it runs out of space, then it allocates sequentially in another place, and so on and so forth. Able to allocate as many items as possible. Not really meant to delete items off it. So it doesn't actually have any functionality to delete items. But maybe I'll add some stubs for it at the very least. But the point is, yeah, that's the internal memory layout, which as the person who created the class, I care about. But as the person who's using it, maybe I care about, like, for example, when I'm building my game engine, I'm using this for an array for ECS components. Obviously, I want them to be sequential because that's the whole point of ECS. So I would use an array like this one instead of a linked list, which just has an object and a pointer to the next object. That doesn't make a lot of sense. All right, we don't want that. So obviously I care about which type I use, but once I have the type, I shouldn't have to remember the type that it is, right? So I shouldn't have to do chunk array create, chunk array get. It should just be accessed as an array. So I'm thinking the syntax for this probably should have been this. Maybe. IDK. Where this makes more sense. Array type chunk subtype int generic template, whatever you want to call it. Maybe that should have been the syntax for that, but I'm not super interested in changing that. The thing is, chunk array is a specific type, and it implements the array type. The array type, which has a bunch of functions like create, get, push, count, destroy. All of those should be common to all array types, whether it's a chunk, a linked list, a static array, a hash map. All of them are array types, and they should all use the same parameters. Although a hash map is more of a dictionary, but either way, whether you implement a dictionary through a hash map or through another method, even if it's just a key value pair array, the internal thing that the array does doesn't matter. You care about array. You access it like an array. You care about the internal memory layout of it. You want to have that. Again, because in ECS, I don't want to use a linked list. I want to use an array like this one. But once I have decided that this is the type, I shouldn't have to care about the internal memory layout or which function to call. Which is why I can access it like test array 0, and this is shorthand for chunk array get test r 0. And I can do test r push, which is short for chunk array push test r 0. So that is what I want. The point is, right now, there is no concept of a chunk array at all. Right? So if instead of chunk array create, I accidentally do chunk array crate, well, this still produces perfectly valid code, except, you know, once I go here, I'm calling the wrong function. It doesn't exist anymore. In addition to that, if I want to have some kind of type inference, which from what I saw in the chat a minute ago was a bit of a controversial topic, perhaps, but it's my language, not yours. If I want to have that, then I should be able to do just var test array chunk array create with this, and I should be able to resolve the type that test array is just from this, just from the initializer, which means I need to know what this function returns. So I need to have that symbol somewhere. Now, also, if you look down here, keep in mind this code here is absolute bullshit in terms of what it means. It has no semblance of semantic correctness in the slightest. Like, for example, here I'm adding up two values that don't even exist. Except I is declared somewhere else, so it does find it, but it shouldn't. But it does find it. Where is I even created? I think it's in a for loop, yeah. But there's no variable called u, so it emits an error and whatnot. For this code, like I said, it's BS. None of what it's written here actually makes sense. But for other code, I usually want it to make sense. Even if I don't want to add type inference right now, I'm okay with not having it for the time being. I frankly almost never use it. Unless the language does declarations like this. In which case, a lot of times I will use it. But I was thinking of a way of just, since I'm not going to be able to parse C, and most of my library is written in C, instead just parsing symbol tables. So in parsing this program, I created these symbol tables here, which I'm printing, but I'm not really exporting. And then the compiler uses them to generate the code. But if I could export them and then also import them in another place, then I could just create symbol tables for my library without needing to compile it. Which means it should also make it kind of trivial to include symbol tables from other languages. Since the syntax that the compiler parses can be changed with just a file, that should make it very flexible. And if I'm able to just import and export symbol tables like that, I should be able to, you know, use symbols from C in this language and use symbols from this language in another language that I compile, as long as it's compiled with this compiler, because it's the only one that can recognize these symbols. But I could give that a try. Though that's not really what I need to do right now. If I coded a C header parser. No, parsing the language is the least of my problems, because again, I can just parse the language by defining its syntax with this. So that shouldn't even be a problem. And honestly, I want to improve the parser generator a little bit. And quite a bit, actually. So you saw how difficult it was to work with it just now. It was kind of a pain in the ass. It's very convoluted. But little by little, as the main compiler starts to be ready, I should be able to start reusing some of its components in this one as well. And so kind of base them off of each other. And it should make compiling other languages a lot easier. It's not difficult right now, but it's not the simplest thing. C macros in tokenizer layer of the parser. That's the problem. That's the main problem I have with parsing C, by the way. I don't have a preprocessor, nor do I want one. Which is why I'm saying, yes, my compiler should be capable. Taking off my hoodie was a bad idea, by the way. I'm putting it back on. I thought it was warm in here, but it's not warm enough to do that. It should be possible to parse other languages with this one, with this compiler, by changing these rules. I don't necessarily want to do it, essentially. No preprocessor because I haven't needed it. And shit, considering I want this compiler to be a general purpose compiler, then I might need it. But yeah, not amazing. But yeah, so long as I don't have a preprocessor, that's gonna make C symbols quite complex. I have a general purpose compiler already. I like that it's able to do that. But it's specific to the language. You just have to configure it for a language. So it's the compiler itself, like the executable can only compile this code for the time being. Because it relies on this. But if I turn this into a data file that I can then parse in the compiler, he's awake. Hey, Jester. Not that awake. It should be possible to do that. But again, keep in mind, none of this is for production. So you'll become LLVM without any of its benefits. Yeah, pretty much. Except LLVM is a backend, so it doesn't even work with multiple languages as far as I know. It just has its own IR. Multiple languages can target it, but it doesn't know multiple languages. I think. But man, maybe LLVM might be a viable backend once I want executable if I don't want to do the whole thing myself, but I will see. So I did see the syntax and it's not super complicated. Okay, but that doesn't matter right now. Here's what does matter. I added pointers. Cool. And yeah, I could have point inference eventually. Pointer inference. No, type inference. What the fuck am I saying? I could have type inference eventually with the stuff that I mentioned, even if I don't compile C in order to get its symbols, I can just import its symbols from somewhere else. Which is essentially kind of like a header file, but just a symbol table. You import a symbol table instead of importing a header file that declares symbols. And again, you could do it in any language that you want. It doesn't have to be C, because you're just passing me a symbol table. I don't know what that symbol table does. As long as it follows C calling convention, then I should be able to understand what those symbols are. How useful would that be? I don't know, but we'll see. Should make interoperability a little bit more interesting. And that's more of an experimental feature anyway, so who cares? The thing is, I need some actual code. I mentioned I wanted to make a little task manager slash visualizer, as in for my tasks, not for the computer's tasks. And I started writing its code, and I decided that Z is just really slow when it comes to file system. I don't know what it's doing. But yeah, I decided that I was gonna write its code in Cred. And so here it is. I need to be able to start compiling this. It has lambdas. It has nested lambdas, which by the way don't really work for the time being. I think, I don't know, let me see if this compiles and what it compiles to. That is cred dot, hold on, let me just publish a new version of the compiler. And then what is you call the reports? And you should have a build system already set up. You do. It has errors though. Hold on, what does the build system do real quick? It produces a new model called crep instead of cred, apparently. Those letters are opposite, so how did the fuck did that happen? I feel like this cred compilation is a little bit broken right now. But yeah, it tries to compile to credgen. Okay, so that's what credgen is. It's a combination of main.cred and that's it. That's the only file that there is right now. And then it tries to source all C files and compile them. That doesn't seem like it had any change, any difference whatsoever. So I'm not sure what happened there. No, it is generating code. So the compiler is working. Data true and item. Okay, that makes sense. And then here it's failing with this, which is a function called in here. It shouldn't be using a parenthesis here. All right, so these are little code generation issues. Unhinged reactions and random scream calls, and you might be Terry Davis. Hold on, I'm getting a call. There's a semicolon missing here. Yeah, the code generator. Oh my god. I hate the way that the code generator works. I'm gonna need to reconsider that whole thing, because god. It is painful to work with. But it can handle quite a lot already. The language is pretty complete. Maybe pointers were the last thing that was really missing from it. But now it should be a lot better. Okay, I need some real world code, but honestly, this is code that has never even worked. So I don't know how I expect it to use it. But you know what? The build system, okay. The build system is a good example for what I want to do. Right, so thank you for your help. But here's what I need. He was a really smart man. No, that's true. Okay. Here's the thing about the build system. My camera has been working the whole time, right? Yes. I just feel like I just saw the light come on the camera, which means that it wasn't on before. But I might just be hallucinating. Don't mind me. Alright, here's the thing about the build system. The build system right now is relying on a build, a red build .h and the red build .c file. It sounds like he was schizophrenic. I don't think that's really up for debate. Right now it relies on a .c file inside the build system itself. Ideally, the build system would be header only. Did he talk about backdoors in CPUs? I don't remember that. But shit. You know, mental illness does not automatically mean that everything you say is wrong. Oh no, I heard about the backdoor itself. It's just I don't know if Terry Davis was talking about that. I don't know. But yeah, yeah, pretty much. It doesn't mean that just because he had schizophrenia, he was wrong. He was right about a lot of things. It's just that, you know, there's a few things that are just like, oh, okay. Even like, I think his brother talked about his usage of certain words as he speculates, I think. It's not like he knows for sure, but since Terry thought that the radio was talking to him, and on the radio there's certain words that you can't say, then he started saying those words and supposedly the radio stopped talking to him. And you know, as his condition got worse, he kind of lost track of that, and the words also got worse because they probably stopped working. So, you know, some good, some bad kind of thing. That's just rage bait. Compiles itself, could contain backdoor. All compilers could contain a backdoor. Okay. The thing about my build system being, actually I have it open here. It has a .h file which defines a bunch of types and a bunch of functions, but then all of it is actually implemented here. The main reason for that is I need all of these in order to use all of those functions, right? And these as well, actually, and these as well, actually. Whereas some of this stuff could be in the header file. But if I want to make it header only, I'm pretty sure I can't hold any variables in the header. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's the case. And that means that all of these can no longer just be global variables inside of the build program. They will need to be held inside of a state of some sort, which would be created by this new module. So a new module that right now returns a void would just create a red B state or red B module, actually, type. And then you would pass that on to all the other ones to compile them properly. Which also would save me from having to do cleanup in new well, no, I still have to do it, but yeah. So the syntax for this will have to change quite a bit. It'll become this, followed by this, followed by this, followed by this. Followed by this. Which in reality is just shorthand for this. Do I need that though? Yes, I do. All right, so that is two questions. First off, two things I need to do. First off, I need to include this to turn a value type into a reference type. And second, I need to come up with an equivalent syntax for this type of thing. Right, because this translates to set target module when it should translate to set target end module. All right, I'll be back after the ad break, and I'll see what I can do about this, but I'm not entirely sure. Okay, we're back. I'm actually like, I feel like I'm falling asleep, kind of. Every time there's an ad break, I'm like, okay, I wanna take a 3-minute nap. So, I guess we'll see how long this stream goes. Because even though I like streaming, I also like resting. I also like weekends. This has nothing to do with me being up at 2 a.m. working on my game, by the way. Because that's a common occurrence. Okay. I think if I introduce this syntax, then I also need to introduce this and this syntax to switch between reference and value types. And
When did you start to like Malbolge? Faisal and my comrade?
I was just being nice to it, to be completely honest. I don't like it. You know what? I can change the syntax of my language at any time. Why am I so scared of adding something that C has? It just makes me more likely to have my language look more like C and maybe even able to compile C to itself. But still, compile C to C but with worse formatting, pretty much. But it's a possibility. It's a possibility. The point is, it actually makes me more likely to mix my language with C. So what the fuck am I complaining about? I'm just gonna add it. I'm just gonna add it. Just vote. Okay. So, where do I add it? Is the question. We have the variable rule, which includes identifier with brackets or just identifier. So that seems like a good place to put it. I just don't know if there's any other places that I would need to put it. But I think maybe as a starting point, I'm going to put it there. And then if I run into syntax errors because I put a pointer or an ampersand where I shouldn't have, I'll just fix it in post, you know? Alright, so let's start with just the asterisk for the time being. Now, I can have both, actually. Who cares? I just need to give them a name. Well, first off, I need to change these to this. Which means that by the... I'm fucking losing it here. I want to see if this is valid syntax. It is valid syntax. It's valid syntax in my language and it's valid syntax in C. What about this? This is not valid syntax. Neither it is in my language. What about this? This is no longer valid syntax for me, but it is for C. Alright, let's check it out. You know I have to try it. Nice. It doesn't seem like valid syntax. This? No, because address of the value, no. Value of the address? But that is not valid syntax. Value of the address is valid syntax, but address of the value is not. At least to me it seems right, and it does seem like Clank complaints, and probably... yeah. Unary. Is that what it's called? What about this? What is this called? Label A used but not defined? Holy, I broke GCC to the point that it thinks that this is a label? The fuck? Hey, just chill. Working on a compiler. And then breaking GCC in the process just for fun. Oh, for a pointer that might be okay. Yeah, you got a point, you got a point, you got a point. Hold on. I'm pointing into negative memory. That's the trick. You don't want to download more RAM, just point to negative memory. Trust me. Nothing bad can come from this. Yeah, now it becomes valid syntax. Alright, well this is not valid syntax in my language, I'm sorry to say. Well, whoops. Sucks to be you. It is open source, it's on my GitHub. You can find it with command git... with that. Exclamation point, that's what it's called. Exclamation point git. Alright, so, then I really made the mistake of, like, falling asleep yesterday. It's not in my bio on Twitch. Well, I didn't make the mistake. I had a pretty annoying headache yesterday in the afternoon, so I fell asleep at around this time, and now I feel like sleeping again. And also, I was up till 3 a.m. Even though that would have happened either way, so let's not pretend. How do I edit my bio? This is not my bio. Channel? No, this is my channel. Profile? I can report my own live stream. About... edit. I'm gonna just yoink it from the chat since you just asked for it. That's the link to my GitHub. And... there it is. Okay. It was surprisingly not absolute dog shit. To fix that, because everything in Twitch settings is just so difficult to navigate. It's such a pain in the ass. Also, I would love to know why the number of subscribers that I have on Twitch is different between my public profile and my stream manager. It's a number. How are you getting a number wrong? I know that I blame all software bugs on vibe coding nowadays, but Jesus Christ. Unless they're mine, in which case it's not ready yet. But Jesus Christ. FFmpeg? What does that have to do with anything? Use that? Well, it's Twitch is the problem. Not really. Well, OBS is also a problem. I mentioned yesterday, or the other day, I mentioned a CPU usage leak of some sort that made my CPU usage 50%, 100% of the time for no goddamn reason, unable to fix it without reinstalling OBS. Even after disconnecting the peripheral that seemed to have caused it, kept happening. The name behind Redacted is that I didn't know what name to give it. It might change in the future, who knows? Okay, so should I just call these address and these values? No, not values, because that's already there. Dref, I guess. And just call them that. I think that's the easiest thing. Dref add ADDR. Is that what I called it? ADDR. Artist project with any project is coming up with a name? Yes. But see, I called it redacted. Now everything that I do has the prefix red, so it's that easy. Build system, red build. Library, redlib. Programming language, based on C, C red. It's not red C, it's C red, cred. Easy. So it only stands to reason that my operating system's name is going to be purple. Because I'm pretty sure blue OS is taken, so is red OS. Besides sounding like Red Star OS from North Korea. There are there how many projects have I made that don't follow this pattern with red? My 3D renderer is surprised not called a redderer. It's called 32D. Oh, my game engine is called Detour. So I guess that, because I was gonna start the game engine and I just took a million detours and it took me like 2 hours to actually get started on it, so it seemed like a fitting name. Redacted, red build. Hack game, this one doesn't have a name yet, it's not gonna be called hack game, obviously. Detour, redlib, and 32D. Holy, that's a lot. Crypto Sweeper, I guess, even though it ended up, it was the first one that I didn't call red something, and it ended up sounding like a crypto scam, when really it's just Minesweeper. But you mine crypto, so yeah. Ghost game. I think I ended up calling it Ghosted. Raylib. I didn't make that one. I'm pretty sure the guy's name is Ray, so he just called it Raylib. Why 3? Just do what any reasonable company would do and use X2D. Why? Is there a pun in there that I completely missed? What was it? I'm still trying to understand what the pun was. Please don't let it be anything dirty. Not too dirty anyway. X. Yeah, I don't see it. I don't see it. The letter X being a reference to Twitter, or the fact that some companies name their products with X? Oh, okay. Wait, the programming language development? I want to take a look at that at that Discord server. Can you post it on my off topic? Okay, where are we? I got rid of that awful syntax that you can do. Well, you can't do this, but you can do the other thing that I did. Anywho. Wait. I can do int a, right? I can do int pointer a. I can do int pointer pointer a. We got any issues with that? There's build errors because I didn't finish building this. Because I haven't finished. Oh no, because my rule parser broke again. Nah. Thanks for the link. I'll check it out after the stream. And nap. Um. Okay. That should fix the errors. You piece of... That didn't fix the errors, clearly. Mm. Jesus, this is turning bad. I'm gonna need to refactor the hell out of this. And it's sec faults, of course. Of course. Well, just because I forgot an argument. That's the main reason my code sec faults nowadays. Okay. Well, it seems to have worked. But it isn't parsing any values, I think. Because I haven't actually put any there. There we go. Boom. What code does it generate? Okay. It's good. Only it's missing the thing there. Right, but if I want to check this gets emitted as a pointer. Boom. It does get emitted as a pointer. And this does not. Okay. Cool. Now, in the variable, this needs to be handled by the code generator. The dereferencing. No, not the fur. Deref. No, not quite. Hold on. No, the whole Intel ME stuff is crazy. Should I create an enum for this? That should be valid, right? Then when we register an element, I'm gonna change the syntax of this. Wait, I don't have to change the syntax of this. And just put a thing here. Wait, what is this? Is this code being used at all? Oh, okay. Yeah, so it detects when a symbol is a dot or a parentheses, right? That's correct. But it should also detect when a symbol is a dereference. Oh, wait. Yeah, because their type is not operand. Okay. I was wondering, how am I going to differentiate between a multiplication and a dereference, because they both use the same symbol and they both have the same rule, but they don't have the same rule. So I'm being dumb here. I didn't put this, and so transform becomes deref, and for address it becomes address. No, var address. Add DDR. Like that. And I need to put breaks at the end because I always forget them. I don't know why when I'm using multiple cursor, and I press escape to get just one cursor, it always goes back to the one I don't need. I understand it probably goes back to the first one that you had, but it always just so happens to be the one I don't need. I read about Trust in Trust, lecture by Ken Thompson. Yep, we talked about it on stream a while ago. I remember hearing about it, but I didn't really remember what it was, but yeah. It's essentially about putting a backdoor in a compiler type of thing. And yeah, not being able to trust a compiler. He said that he actually built one, but obviously didn't release it or anything. And from researching it after that stream, I remember that apparently it's like there are ways of checking, you know, so it's not as pervasive as he makes it out to be, which obviously it is, but you know, there are ways of mitigating it. Okay. In emitting code, could be a pointer. Well, I have good news for you, buddy. We have ways of fixing that. The problem is I'm a little confused by whether I can move this out of the scope or not. Not really. Not really. Because we're trying to find the symbol for the declaration based on the name that we've been given. Whereas instead, if it instead is a nested operation, like something like this, then this whole thing is var, then this whole thing is var, then this whole thing is not, actually. But the point is, at its lowest level, it has the name, and at other levels, it has the variable. And then it emits the second. So actually, it starts here with name, then this as the expression afterwards, which is var. Yeah, so I should resolve whether it is a pointer or not. No, wait, the way it resolves is the opposite. It resolves this first, then this part. How do you know if this is a pointer or a normal period that you have to use there? Is based on the value of this. Which means you need to know the value of this, which we don't. Which we don't. But we can kind of do something about it. Can is ref false? At the lowest level, we can know based on if the symbol that it finds is a reference type. And is ref, you emit something, otherwise you emit something else. So that gets rid of that to do. That's not even what I was working on. That's not even what I came here to do. What I came here to do is if the code has a transform we have to emit a dereference operator. And if the code is an address, we have to emit that operator. I mean, decentralization wouldn't really work if all compilers are based off of each other. If you do everything completely independently, then yes, you've got a point. But that just kind of isn't how it's done. Even if something is decentralized, it tends to be connected. Didn't I tell you to dereference that? That should have been dereferenced. God damn it, it didn't get dereferenced. No, referenced, actually. Addressed is what I called it. So why didn't that happen? Can you print for me? It finds it. It's there. Wait, this is one specific operation type. Am I kind of repeating this code in 3 different places? Oh no, wait, it's different. It's different. It's way different. Module address. For your consideration, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. With this simple functionality, I should be able to make my build system header only. And I should be able to make it rebuild itself, which means you will no longer need the entire repository for the build system. I'll just put it in my library. That's it. Because right now it relies on the header file, the C file, and then this shell script that compiles your build system for you. But if you just called BCC, if you just called cred and then GCC on the build system, you technically won't need this anymore. But it's still nice to have, I guess. I might still keep it, but it's not going to be a requirement anymore. It technically is. It technically isn't a requirement. You can just run this manually, and with this, if you're on Mac. But yeah, you still need to do all of that. And I don't think anyone wants to do that. Kind of. If it's cred, then call the compiler binary CC. Cred I should call the compiler CC, the cred compiler. Have you thought about that? Is CC just called that because of New Compiler Collection? Ah, that's what it stands for. That's what a CC means. I thought it meant C compiler. You never know, I guess. Okay. God, it's starting to get to the point that there are parts of this compiler that I am really starting to hate. The code generator is the main one, by far. And the second one is the rule generator. It did mean that? It might be. The code generator is just very verbose. If anything, I wonder if I can come up with some cleaner syntax to still express this type of stuff with my own language, you know? And actually, I think I made an example for this here in Meta. Yeah, I created code generation templates, which for whatever reason the strings are breaking here. But it's a very similar syntax to the one that the rule generator uses. I expanded it a little bit. Like, for example, I want my rule generator to have groups like this. It will reduce the number of rules that I use by a lot if I do this. Because pretty much every time there's like, I don't know, this is a declaration, right? And it has an equal, it can have extern based on a certain condition. And then symbol, and then optional. This whole thing is optional. But how do I make this whole thing optional? I either create one rule that has both and one rule that has neither, or I technically make one optional but not the other, which is wrong. Or I put them in their own subrule and I make that subrule optional. So if I make groups, it's gonna be nice. Groups and conditions. And then you can define those conditions as simple Boolean operations. That is how I was considering doing code generation templates to make them a little bit cleaner, but honestly, essentially it just takes care of the formatting for you, kind of. That's the main thing that it does. But honestly, the formatting adds, you know, a lot of extra bullshit to the compiler. That's point number one. And point number two is that it kind of needs to be like context aware. So here is the context awareness that it needs. So that is a little bit, ugh. But hey, I'm thinking of ways to improve the code generator, but I'm not super interested in doing that right now. And then there's the rule generator that's honestly starting to break severely. So I think I'm gonna refactor it a little bit these days. Compiler right now is compiling this C style language. Okay. There are a couple things that I need to see. Credential. Don't use its full government name, it's just called cred. A dialect of C is not super right. It's a cousin of C. But you know how you're like 30 and you get a newborn cousin? Kind of like that. It's kind of like C. Very general purpose, very explicit. Although it's a little more implicit than C in some cases. It has lambdas and whatnot, pretty much. And some semblance of classes without really having classes. It also has like inheritance to interfaces, not to parent classes. So you can only have one level of that, but I kind of wish I didn't almost. But sometimes it's useful. And yeah, it does have that right now. C++ a dialect or a cousin? Okay, the cousin thing is not, um, you know, a real thing. But what I'm saying is that, for example, C++, you can compile pure C as both C and C++. The behavior can be slightly different, but you can. Whereas here, maybe you'll be able to compile C. I do wonder. I'm gonna see if I have a very simple, I'm gonna see if I have a very simple C file that I can try to compile with cred and see how that goes. See how that goes. Yes, I am gonna continue making that joke every single time. That's gonna be the end of the stream. But before that, let's say that I have module. Actually, yeah. I have something like this going on. I want to see that it manages to dereference them properly and... No, wait. Syntax error on line 8, 7. Oh, are these not chainable? What's the problem? Obviously, this is not valid code, but it should be syntactically valid, but it isn't. Expected L bracket found equal in variable. Okay, so it's probably that I didn't add this operand everywhere where I should have, because the assignment uses an identifier for the variable. I want you to use a variable for that. Ask code is actually very accurate. Okay, it's not that trivial. But I can just not make it an assignment, right? And then I should be able to do this. It still complains. Again, am I not allowed to chain it? Okay, the problem is the chaining. All right, and what code does that generate? Surprisingly valid syntax? Okay. All right then. All right. Sure. That is exactly what it should have generated. The problem is that it's not what I expected it to generate. I expected it to generate with, yeah, with this. It should have generated with that, because it should see it as a reference type. Even though we are dereferencing it, which should remove the reference type from it. Right, so that's the part that was missing in order to make it work properly. But I'm a little bit surprised. So we have the solution, but we don't have the problem, essentially. Yes, do you know about the news? Fork found in kitchen. His wife divorced him over that in like 2019. We knew. We knew. We just didn't know why. It's fucking horrifying, but hey. A billionaire found committing crimes. Again. Fork found in kitchen. Also, not gonna lie to me, everyone that's even like been slightly related to that man should have been guilty until proven innocent. Elon begged to be on that list. That man can't even stop being a loser to do that. It's horrible, but holy shit. You cannot be this big of a loser. I'm sorry you used to admire that man, to be honest. I've never eh, I don't think he's ever done anything admirable. Besides charity, but honestly charity is just money laundering when you're rich. He did build the most used operating system, but it's never been good. And also the only reason it's the most used, it's um, contracts. They frame my man Winnie the Pooh. Yeah, Winnie the Pooh's in the files too. That's not even a joke. There actually somebody was able to activate like a Windows 10 license off of pictures that they posted on there, or a Windows something license. Trump? Fork found in kitchen. Once again, water is wet. The sky is slightly grayish, but usually blue. Slightly grayish? Jesus Christ. It's monochrome. Um, can this thing please start working though? Wait, I can check. You should consider a long name to be a reference type. It does not work. No. It works, but it shouldn't work. You are allowed to post links, but if it's related to this, I'm gonna go with use your judgment. It does this automatic int t thing that it shouldn't do. This is why it would be nice to have symbols imported, because then I can say, does it add a t suffix or not? Because some of them do, some of them don't. Although int should translate to uint32 underscore t, or int32 underscore t. So yes. Everyone used to talk about C like an analog horror story. Do I need to bring back the array indexing? Need I bring back the array indexing? Okay. Yeah, I am going to be deleting that link. It's a. Can I fucking delete a link? Twitch, for the love of God. It's a bit sensitive. But can I delete a fucking message that was posted on chat? How is this not possible to do? Without banning the person. Alright, well, I guess I can't. For the love of God. A live stream chat where you can't delete messages without banning a person. I don't want to time you out. Oh, I can do that for 5 seconds. Hold on. Alright, that was 5 seconds, so it shouldn't be too long, but Jesus Christ, that's the only way to delete a message. And he's back. How has no one at Twitch thought, hey, there's gonna be a few cases in which you might want to delete a message without banning the person? Like if somebody messages in the chat saying like, hey, you leaked your IP, I'm gonna be like, oh, okay, I'm gonna delete that message so more people don't see it and keep the situation as quiet as possible, but I don't want to fucking like time out the person. In this case, it is a sensitive subject, so again, nothing against you, but I just don't want that posted in the chat. But like, why is that not an option? On YouTube, it's an option. I'm pretty sure it's an option anyway. Any victims on YouTube want to get their message removed as a test? Please don't say anything wrong. Hold on, I'm not live apparently. I am live, okay. Yeah, I can remove individual messages on YouTube. Which, by the way, you just click on it and delete. On Twitch, you have to do everything with commands in the chat. Which means, by the way, if you get a command wrong, you just end up sending a message. Which isn't even showing up in my chat. My god, what a shit platform. Holy... Anyway, might as well take the opportunity to remind everybody that Jeffrey Epstein did not actually kill himself. He was killed, allegedly. And, maybe I should say allegedly, just to keep myself out of trouble, but... it is a fact that Donald Trump, Elon Musk, Bill Gates, and a bunch of other people have their names associated with this man, and there's a reason for that. We're absolutely shocked to learn these news, but yeah, just a quick reminder. That is a thing. Oh, and he actually bombed my country to, distract from the files. Cute little thing that American presidents tend to do. Can't say anything else without risking being banned. Okay, it is a reference type. Do you see it as a reference type? Yeah, he's not done. He is not done. One president isn't enough. And while we're at it, one last thing that I can't say without risking being banned is that the only difference between Trump and other American presidents is that he doesn't know how to lie. Well, the war in the Middle East isn't even him. It's the other one. The one in which calling out their actions actually gets you banned off Twitch for a week. So, even less likely to say what I can say about that. Or what I should say about that. Wait, wait, no, this is not the right place. This is the right place. Is this being printed anywhere? No. No, I'm not saying that Trump is innocent. I'm saying the only difference between him and other American presidents is he doesn't lie. That is to say, they all do what he does, the other ones just lie about it. You know, except for the part about Epstein. He did lie a whole bunch about that. He also lies constantly. He just like very often also just says the thing that he shouldn't have said, that other presidents would have kept quiet about. He just says it. Is there a reason why? Okay, can we print the name of the symbol that's named? A long name. Yeah, the thing is, I don't know, I just feel like, yeah, him not lying is not true. Let me just put it this way. Where other people lie, he tells the truth. He also lies. In general. But like where other people know to keep quiet, he doesn't, essentially. He constantly says the quiet part out loud and he's unable to not do that. Okay, so a long name is a reference type here. Here. It is a reference type. But why not here? Oh, no, wait. Oh, well, Okay, I understand. Okay, what's happening here is this whole thing is counted as a variable, right? Where we have left side, period, right side. Left side then gets resolved, and then it should stop being a reference type, but the whole variable should pick up on the fact that this one has been evaluated to be a reference type, and so this should become this, except then this nullifies it, but, you know. Step by step on that one. Okay. So to do that, most likely I want to move all of this to, well, no, not all of it. I think I got one line there that I shouldn't have. Yeah, this line.
I have 20k channel points, so just do this for fun.
Fair. Emit variable with a var code. Put this whole thing in a bool, and then call this with that. So now, whenever you do the code gen emit code also here, yes, also here. No, here it doesn't really matter, but for the sake of convenience, we're going to do emit variable with a code var pointer. Right, so directly accessing this. Is ref now gets determined by this. And what do you return? Now here you return is ref. Hey, Happy Geek Guy. How's it going? Here you emit false. This should also resolve types. This function here, essentially. But can't be bothered with that right now, since I still have to solve this problem. If it is a reference type, you once again return this. No, you don't return it. You don't return it. You have a bool is a ref, false by default, determined by this value, or determined by this, returned here. By default, you return, it's not a reference type. Okay, so with that, it should know now nothing. It knows nothing. The code's not there. Fuck. Did I not call the function? Yes, I did. Incredible. Incredible. Okay, there it is. Okay, so it correctly understands a long name is a pointer, so we should address it as such. Issue with that, it's the fix that I had without having the problem, so I haven't implemented it, but it is there, the code is there. This dereferences it, which means it turns it into a value. And so, whenever this gets emitted, as code, yes, assignment code. That obvious? Is ref false? Right, because when you dereference a value, it's no longer a reference. And when you address a value like that, it becomes a reference. Same thing here. Like I said, I had the issue without the solution without the problem, so I commented it out. It should now be correctly dereferencing. Whereas if instead I remove the dereference, I get the correct behavior. And last thing, let me see. There was one more, so oh yeah, I need to test this, right? Or if I do this, it's technically not super right, but whatever. It is valid syntax in my language. It becomes this, which is like, what the fuck are you talking about here, brother? But it is what it is. It works. It's just like, why would you use this syntax? But if you need to use this syntax, then it works. Okay. Great. No. That's quite a lot for today, I believe. Um, I need to work on the code generator a little bit because I feel like it has some issues. Like a semicolon's just missing here for whatever reason. Missing from here as well for whatever reason. From here as well and here. What the hell happened there? God only knows. Certainly, I don't know what's happening there. It's a little bit of an issue because this is code taken straight from my build system, except for this. But this should also be in the build system. If I want to let there be variables in the build system, there should be variables in the build system. And these parentheses being missing means that this wouldn't compile. Can we speed run it? Also, technically, this becomes now a valid syntax, by the way, which I don't love, but I don't hate necessarily. As in, it's not the cleanest, but it works. It resolves to what it needs to resolve, which is what I needed to do, pretty much. Okay, pretty sure the missing semicolon. It's gotta be a result of the only code that I changed in here, right? That would make sense. Just a little bit confused as to where it's happening, where the issue is. There is no code for semicolons in this whole thing, I believe, actually, which is what makes it so weird. No, only in the selection, buddy. There's no more selection. Thank you so much for that. I am telling it to search for this inside of this. Why was it searching outside of that? There is no code for semicolons here, so I guess it's just a small bug that I'll fix eventually. No, I'll fix it later. I think it's not super relevant right now, even though it does prevent my code from compiling to C properly. But wait, it's a little weird. Because why does it not happen literally anywhere else? Redb mod set target is set target For Redby mod. Okay, so if I just do this, will it work? Yeah, now it works. So that actually brings me to the question. Did it happen in the previous version of the compiler as well? And the answer is that shouldn't have compiled. What the fuck? Nah, no way. I accidentally called publish, which creates a new version of the compiler. Fuck. That's a problem. So that means the new version of the compiler could already have the bug. And really, the only way to know is to do git stash push, then build, and then the output is back to normal. Okay. And then do redb mod m equals to, nobody cares actually, create, and then call it like this. Okay, it's a bug that was happening before too. That's why the code that I modified isn't responsible for this. That makes sense. Okay, so git stash pop. Ah, for the love of God. And that way I can end the stream knowing that I found a new bug, but I didn't create a new bug. So that's great. All right. Well, I am going to be ending the stream here. It's been long enough. Not really, I've streamed for longer, but I got everything that I needed to get done today. Which I'm actually very surprised that I had a goal to do 3D rendering on Friday, rasterizing, and I was able to finish it entirely on Friday. To do file system stuff, virtual file system stuff, modules for processes in the operating system yesterday, and I did do it not for userland like I said. I said that when I talked about it on the stream, that it wasn't really necessary for it to be userland, but doing them in userland would require a fair bit of considerations when it comes to security, so I'm okay with not doing it in userland. But I did do it for the purposes that I needed. And today I was planning on doing this whole thing with pointers, reference and value types, and I was able to do it. So I've kept to the schedule pretty well. I also did the thing that I was going to do for the hacking game that I said I was going to do off stream. So it's going pretty well. Tomorrow's stream is going to be an interesting one. We're going to do HTML parsing. Starting a web browser, officially. It's time. It's time to start a web browser. We're there. We're there. We're at that time. It's not going to have any JavaScript. I might look into WebAssembly. If not, it's going to be CRUD. It's going to be CRUD. I don't give a shit. Or PHP. Just do everything on the server. There's no reason for you to do anything other than a static website. Right? Even Jester would be bored at a fucking dynamic website that's taking up so much RAM. Just a quick reminder that my operating system runs inside of 512 megabytes of RAM. It doesn't use most of that, and it takes up 700 kilobytes in the executable. Whereas Reddit, the staticest of all static pages, takes like 70, 80 megabytes just to display a Redditor's opinion. My operating system shows you a new way of doing operating systems. Well, it's very inspired by Plan 9, which is old, but hey, an alternative way of doing operating systems. So hey, pick your poison. That is so much better than VS Code, honestly. VS Code is just has that little Microsoft lack of common sense to it that I just don't enjoy very much. So I moved away from it. It was a whole thing. I tried a bunch. Okay. All right. Here's a link to my Discord in case you're interested in joining. And how about a little Twitch raid? So a link to my Twitch in case you're interested in joining for a Twitch raid. I will prepare. Someone that I'm following is live. All right. Okay, so tomorrow's stream is going to be 25 hours from now, 7:30 p.m. Central European Time and 6:30 p.m. UK time. And we will be doing some HTML rendering, so that's going to be pretty fun, pretty interesting, pretty cool. And I will see you then.